Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the AntonioTalks talk show. We've been away for a couple of weeks, but luckily you guys didn't realise because we had lots of pre-recordings in 1 week. We did those. It was quite a busy week for you, Dylan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. How did you find that week for you?
Busy.
It was busy, exactly. As I said, I'm glad that you concur. So today's show, we've got a special guest who has been on the show before, so it's our second guest. It's our second appearance of a guest. Ian Horrocks, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Ian Horrocks.
Thank you. It's exciting to be back. I'm the first person to ever come back.
I know, exactly, because you're the first person I asked
Everyone else
back.
just rejected you after it. They're like, no, I'm not coming
Well,
back.
I will ask them one day, but it's important that they have a bit of breathing space from me. So we, just for the benefit of the audience out there, we went to America to kick off a project with a client out there and also open up our US base, if you will. We were in between New York and San Francisco, and the project is well and truly alive right now, and it's going really well. So when we arrived in San Francisco after a couple of days in New York, we went to a local sort of area. We just asked, we got in a cab, a Lyft rather, and asked the Lyft driver, who was sort of resided in London half the time and resided in San Francisco the other half, and asked him to drop us off to just a real cool San Francisco place where all the locals will be, so that we can hang out and just drink with them and then just get to know the locals. And so we got to this place called Mission, and it's really not known by many. Even the lady in the bar asked Ian, how did you find this place, and it was great to get to this. But we sat there all night drinking Stella Artois from the bottle, Artoris, as if you're Mickey Flanagan, drinking from the bottle, and we were just literally just chatting to the guys out there, and we're sitting in the front. How cool was that evening? That was a real cool evening, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that was the nice side of San Francisco, all of the kind of the arty bit. That was actually, it was the European bit of San Francisco.
Really?
The guy we met this really interesting Greek anarchist who was running for mayor.
Yeah, he was running for mayor
of San Francisco.
Wanted to run for mayor, rather.
Or wanted to run for mayor, and obviously all night we were talking about the kind of the policies that he'd do and stuff. And then there was the bar lady who was Spanish, I think she was. Italian from Bologna.
Yeah.
And it was a really nice kind of multicultural thing. There's an American guy there.
Yeah, it was
French
great,
guy
and
there.
everyone was just chatting away all night. And at the end of the night, when everyone was leaving, we all started hugging. Everyone was just hugging. It was just so weird.
Yeah.
But you would I think it was just everyone had such a meaningful conversation.
There were lots of meaningful conversations.
There's loads of meaningful conversations, and obviously we had a couple of beers, and they were smoking weed, weren't they? Because obviously it's legal out there.
Yeah.
So
we could. It was kind of we mirrored each other because we couldn't believe how much they were smoking, and they couldn't believe how much we were drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
How are they smoking this much and still talking normally? How are they drinking this much?
Yeah, they did think that. They were crazy. Every time we went to the bar, she was like, "No, you guys are partying tonight." We're like, "No, it's a normal night."
Just from London.
Just from London, exactly. I watch a lot of liberal TV, liberal news, and I watch a lot of news that is based upon, very democratic in that regard. And you hear a lot of fear stories, which is the American dream's dying, and the state of America since Trump's been in is terrible, and this, that, and the other. And obviously, there are two sides to the story. Obviously, that is a situation. I can't comment on whether that is or not, but I can comment on our experience from coming from the UK, to set up shop in the US, and how it's been, realised, that American dream. Because, if we got to New York, we're working from, One World Trade. We had a view of the whole city. The clients we're working with out there, are phenomenal, and it's because of that value we provide. So I think that American dream is well and truly. If we can do it, if we could do it, a company from London, a boy from Newcastle and a fucking council estate victim, if we could do it, then anyone can do it, and that's my thing. It's like that New York song from Frank Sinatra. If I could make it there, I'll make it anywhere. So yeah, that's my point. What's your take on that?
I don't know. I guess spot on. But I mean, what I said about the American dream, I think, is that like it's kind of a limiting frame. I think it's an interesting idea, but is it alive? Is it dead? I don't really care. But it's more for me. Is it like what's happening in the country? Is it for the good of everyone, or is it for the good of a certain amount of people?
Yeah. So what's the highlight of your trip?
Highlight of my trip was San Francisco, Golden Gate Bridge. And clam chowder.
Did you have your clam chowder?
I got some clam chowder.
How was that?
Yeah, it's amazing. I went to basically they've got these piers or wharfs.
Yeah.
You didn't.
I didn't. I was out for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, so you were out for St. Patrick's Day. Me and Antonio had to take a break from each other. He went and celebrated with the local Irish population.
Yeah.
I went and just had a nice little walk, and I walked all the way up along the piers, got some really nice clam chowder, and then walked up to the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's like such a beautiful walk.
Great. What did you learn about me spending that much time with me?
Oh, you're not that bad.
Really?
Yeah, you're not that bad.
Well, that's great.
That was it.
I
thought it was going to be a lot worse.
I kind of figured that, because obviously I when we were just on the downtime or when we were working from the place we were staying at, so the Airbnbs, I'd obviously just hang out in the room because that's my thing. I'd just like to be around my own space, and I kind of figured that I weren't too bad because it was the final day, and Ian was like, I was like, yeah, I'm just watching this Netflix show. It's amazing. I was like, you should watch it, and he was like, oh, come out and watch it out here. I was like, no, Ian, I'm going to sit in there. But I kind of figured that actually I weren't that bad after that statement because I can be quite overbearing, right? So I know that, and you guys know that. So I'm actually surprised that you did well. We didn't really have any arguments apart from over booze, which was standard anyway.
Just as when the booze kicked in.
It's just when the booze kicked in, exactly. That's it. The couple of beers. Great. So since when we were out there, we saw that there was a situation, and this probably could go in the previous news of a previous day, but not now really. Actually, we'll talk about that later on, previous news of a previous day. Let's talk about this Cambridge Analytica scandal. And this is the real meaty stuff where probably everyone's here to listen to. So Cambridge Analytica...
started with.
Yeah, we should have started with that and then went in. It's fine. Cambridge Analytica scandal has been an interesting one all over the news. I think you know more about it. Obviously, I know about it, but you know more about it and have a better way of summing it up. So if you could just tell the audience what it is, if you don't know it out there and you've been under a rock.
All right. So yeah, basically, if you've been under a rock, the whole Cambridge Analytica thing was about a company called Cambridge Analytica, which had nothing to do with the University of Cambridge. Dylan, you need to put that in lights on that edit.
Disclaimer.
They just kind of pretended to be associated with Cambridge in their name, and so the whole idea is that they were a data gathering company, and they sold that data to various political parties and sold ads off the back of that on social media. So the idea is that they collected loads of data from different places, and then they used that data to target political ads at different people. The reason why the story broke, the kind of bad thing, is that basically that in 2000 and I can't remember what the year was, but quite a while ago, some professor harvested loads of data off Facebook by setting up a psychological test. So it's one of those tests where it's 5, what kind of personality type are you? And he got loads of people to answer questions about, do they go out a lot, or what do they do in certain social situations? Do they shy away or whatever? The test went viral on Facebook because everyone just thought it was just a good bit of content and started interacting with it. From that, the test also managed to get access to all of the people who'd taken it, all of their friends. So all of the friends of the people who'd taken this test, unbeknownst to them, all of their data went to the guy who set the test. Cambridge Analytica then bought that test data and used it for whatever, sold it to different political parties. So the problem is that the reason why it's a story is that Cambridge Analytica were essentially harvesting data without people's consent and then using it to target really dodgy political ads at people.
But that's marketing, isn't it?
Well, I mean, that is marketing. But,
so what's the problem?
But I mean, there are many ways of doing marketing, and like there are many other parts to the story of like stuff that Cambridge Analytica did. Like they got caught in a Channel 4 investigation saying that they'd set up a honey trap for a certain politician. They've kind of been caught red-handed in that, like they're not really the kind of people you trust to harvest data. Do you know what I mean? Like they're the kind of people who, it seems like, would, again, we've got to be careful we don't get sued, but like it seems like their motives aren't exactly trustworthy. So the problem is that you have so much power from this data. You can go out there, you can collect it all, and it's quite easy to collect it.
So let's just stop there. So yeah, you have so much power. So the thing that so I get that, you know, persuading or influencing a mass market through propaganda and in many ways some fake news, whatever it may be, is really bad. But the actual techniques they're using is stuff that, you know, we do in many ways. You know, and we don't obviously influence on a political scale, but isn't marketing just influencing people?
No, but
that
I mean,
could be swayed.
The problem is that they did it without the user's consent. So they took data, because there was obviously the people who participated in the test, they probably didn't know that their data was going to be harvested, but it was in the terms and conditions, yeah, and it was very like, you know, well, it wasn't blatantly in the terms and conditions, but it was in the terms and conditions. So they could have reasonably expected that their data would have been used. What's weird is that their friends couldn't have expected their data to be used because their friends took this test. Do you know what I mean? That's really weird. So let's say, because we're friends on Facebook, you took a test, and that means that you sign over my data to some random third-party company. Yeah. I've got no idea if any of that happened. Yeah. How do I know you took the test? Do you know what I mean? And all my data is going to this company. So they used that to then build out psychological maps to then target political ads. So that's kind of like, you know, it's irresponsible data harvesting. So there's many parts of it that are irresponsible. There's the data harvesting, there's how you use that data, there's the fact that they sold that data to other people without, you know, consent. So they stole the data from people didn't know. Then they sold the data that people didn't know they'd stolen from them to other people. And then they used that data to create, you know, political ads that potentially influence the US election. Whether they actually influence the election or not, who knows? Because it could just be Cambridge Analytica saying, you know, hey, we're really good at this, you know, because that's what they'd say. They're a marketing agency. Whether they did actually have that impact or not, you know.
What do you think? Do you think they had an impact?
I think, I mean, I don't know, to be honest. Like, there's no way of telling. Like, there's no data out there that tells us that Cambridge Analytica's input influenced that. But I mean, there's also the same, like they also were used for Brexit as well. So Leave campaign used Cambridge Analytica, or they used Cambridge Analytica affiliated companies, and they used that to target ads at different people. So, you know, did that have an impact? I don't know, I can't tell, but I mean, it's likely. The weird thing is what I think there's a much more important issue other than Cambridge Analytica, which is obviously quite bad. What they did was bad. You know, whatever kind of repercussions should be made. But what is worse, in my view, is that you know, you can target ads so specifically to people. So a great thing that the Leave campaign did is that they took the Brexit issue, and obviously there's loads of different types of Brexit that you could have, and they promised every single type of Brexit to the different people who they thought they'd like it. So you can say to some people, they're like, oh no, we'll do Brexit, but it won't be that crazy. It won't be that difficult, you know, we won't be like a hard Brexit. But then they could go to people in Stoke who want a hard Brexit, and they could say, this is going to be a mental Brexit, you know, we're just going to completely leave the European Union. And both people don't see that you're sending out multiple messages. This is all within current UK election law. There's nothing wrong about it. But in my opinion, that's worse, because you're sending out multiple messages to people and manipulating them just to win the vote. Maybe it's a problem with referendums. But do you think, like,
if you're so easily influenced, then that's your problem, isn't it? You know, the people who are influenced...
Well, no, it's society's problem, because society is the one who has to deal with the ramifications of those votes. So if votes are being made... But if votes are being made on misinformation, so the people who are getting into power shouldn't have been in power because they got into power based on lies, then that's bad for the whole of society, not just for the person who voted for it.
But how are they lies? By the way, I was not a fan of Brexit, but I'm just really curious.
I'm just talking about anything. Like if my side were like, if Remainers were lying, like it's the same thing. Same thing applies.
But were they lies? Like obviously there would have been surely.
Well, I mean, it is.
On that.
It's not lying, but it's essentially you're telling multiple truths, which isn't. That shouldn't be the rule of the game. You should be like, look, we're campaigning. If just talking about if it's leave or whatever, we're campaigning to leave. This is why we want to leave. This is what leave is going to look like. Yeah, great, fine, fair enough. Yeah. All power to you. And then if people choose that,
so
that's
do you
fine.
think marketing and advertising?
If you say we're going to leave, and you say to this guy, Tom, who wants this kind of leave, we're going to give you that leave. Yeah. You say to Harry, this kind of leave. You know what I mean?
It's an interesting concept because do you think marketing and advertising should be in politics? Because it
has to be politics.
No, but the point is that this is if it has to be, then this is the type of thing that you have to deal with because ultimately, everyone is skewing the bad points of a product and and propelling the good points, right? That's basically it. But you can't if you go into this and you can say, well, the marketing and advertising industry needs to be heavily regulated then, essentially. Heavily regulated.
Well, I think when it comes to political campaigning, there should be lots of regulations. In terms of products, maybe less so. But I mean, the main thing is that where it all kind of, the most important thing would be to have critical thinking and internet kind of education at a young age for people. Do you know what I mean? So that people are equipped with the skills to be able to decode the messages that they're being given, because people are constantly, everything around you is advertising of some form. It might not, increasingly, it doesn't seem like it's advertising. That's the point. Do you know what I mean? Like it's native, it's meant to appeal to your desires, to your fears, whatever. So you can't deal with that unless you have a critical thinking skill set to deal with that, because you're just going to look at it and you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. And you're going to be consistently manipulated. And especially if you don't understand how tech and kind of online is used to do that to you. So there's two sides. There's critical thinking, which is basically like, who sent me this message, why are they sending it, whatever. And then there's also, just general like kind of data privacy, stuff like that, so people can stay safe online. So they're the two main things that we should have in education.
So let's look at that. So whose responsibility is it then to basically make sure that manipulation can't happen? So you've mentioned three things there, which is the person, the agency or product owner of that app that was harvesting data. You've got Facebook, the platform that allows that to happen. You've got the user that is the person making the decisions, making the buying decisions in many ways, right? So there's three cogs there. Whose responsibility is it?
I don't think it's about responsibility. I think it's about the fact that
I would never ever vote on something I wasn't so sure upon, right? So I'd go deeper into research. That's my responsibility, and because I take the vote very seriously. I take it very seriously as because I know how impactful it can be. If someone voted on a whim because they saw a number of posts out on Facebook, that was their sole channel for information, then I've got to ask questions around whether that education needs to happen. It's your responsibility to get that education. Facebook, obviously it's their platform. There's a massive responsibility there, I think, but at the same time, Mark Zuckerberg just created this beast. He didn't know he was creating this beast. He's just creating it,
So there's a great cover story that came out in Wired a couple of weeks ago. It's quite portentous for all this stuff. Now Facebook have gone into like war room mode, whatever. Yeah. But a couple of weeks ago, a story came out in Wired, really well reported, which featured loads of people from the inside of Facebook basically talking about the kind of past 2-3 tumultuous years that they've had. It's been very difficult. Loads of scandals have hit them, whatever. And the employees, there's a great quote where they talk about what kind of Mark Zuckerberg's approach to it was before, maybe about a year ago. Facebook would just kind of like, they would get these scandals and they'd just be like, we don't care, we're Facebook. Do you know what I mean? They'd be like, you guys don't understand tech, you don't understand what we're doing, you don't understand how important we are, you don't understand how invincible we are. We're just not even going to bother responding to you guys. And the quote was essentially like, so if you see Mice and Men, of Mice and Men, so basically there's a character there called Lenny, for anyone who doesn't know, and he's kind of like this big, massive bruiser, and he doesn't know the power that he has, and he ends up accidentally killing a kind of a girl that he loves, because he's just like, he's big, dumb, powerful. And that's what they compared Mark Zuckerberg to, because he's just he didn't understand at the time how big Facebook was and the amount of sway it had in the real world. So when someone would come to him and say, look, okay, you guys, Facebook, you're responsible for this election result in Tanzania, and he'd be like, no, it's bollocks, man. We're just a social media platform. It's a similar thing to, but now he's starting to realise, and they've gone into war room mode, and they're just like, shit, maybe we actually do have a ridiculous amount of power, and we have a responsibility to shape our platform.
So what does that mean? So it's interesting because you look at, I guess, the things that are coming out from Facebook now. That how's this going to tailor our advertising?
How's it going to change your advertising?
How's it going to change it? I mean, look, you think about it. Advertising, the advertising on the platform is going to change massively. You're not going to be able to do what you were able to do before. It was starting to shift anyway previously, where Facebook were blocking ads around cryptocurrency or blockchain, right? And that's fine. I mean, it's their prerogative whether they want to do that, and because our job is just deal with the platform and what the stipulations are. But if you have a look at it, what's going to happen now with Facebook, that there's so much emphasis on them to stop, I guess, people manipulating their platform or hacking their platform in many ways. There's so much emphasis on them for to start changing the way that they're allowing people to create accounts, fake accounts, because there's a lot of fake accounts created or were not created by certain agencies. So what does it mean? There's obviously ramifications to what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, their revenue is probably going to take a hit. Like, they're not going to earn as much in ads as they have been doing, but they've still been earning a ridiculous amount in ads. That's why they're like one of the most highly valued companies on earth. So I think Facebook will be fine. From like all the kind of groups, the ad groups on Facebook at the minute, there's maybe about 20% whining and 80%, all right, let's just get on with it and just advertise under the new rules. And I think most people still realize that there's nothing as comprehensive as Facebook out there for micro-targeting. So I think it's very much going to carry on. Just like basically a lot of lazy marketers might get wiped out because they might rely on dodgy techniques or dodgy data. So one of the things that they're going to do is basically, if you try and, what you can do on Facebook is you can import custom email lists into Facebook and then use that to retarget Facebook ads to the people in your email list. So anyone whose email matches up from your email list to a Facebook account, you can then target advertising to them. They're not going to let you do that anymore unless you can validate that you've actually earned those email addresses with consent.
How does the validation
because
look? What's it look like?
They haven't rolled it out yet, so we don't know. But that's one of the things that they're going to do. So I imagine that would wipe out lots of people who bought email lists. Yeah. Because it's like a massive trade online. Yeah. People just buy email lists in their niches, whatever. But obviously it's not a very good thing to do because those email lists don't actually have your consent to message them. No. So, really what you should do is you should build a relationship with a person first, earn their trust, and then, send them the messages that you want to send them, rather than just buying their contact and then...
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, previous news of a previous day. It's the second episode of previous news of a previous day, but the 8th episode of AntonioTalks talk show. So here we go. Let's roll that credit. We spoke already. We spoke about Uber driverless cars and the crash that happened, and obviously there was a woman who was killed by a driverless car. The car was manned by an employee of Uber. Ian has some opinions on it. Quickly say your opinions on it.
Yeah, so it's obviously it's kind of it's a really horrible thing that happened. It's really bad, and someone died. Whatever, it's never good, of course. But the whole point of driverless cars is that you reduce deaths on average. Like in that same day that the machine killed one human being, human beings killed lots of human beings while driving cars. So like on a whole, driverless cars will help and they will reduce deaths. Like pretty much every study says that. Everybody who's reputable and knowledgeable about the subject says that. So it is the kind of the right direction to go in. But the problem is that who's culpable for the death? When it's a human who's done it, it's like, yeah, it was your fault. And we can kind of, as human beings, we can understand that and we can come up with solutions to that, like jail, whatever.
Has there even been any questions?
When a machine does it, what do we do?
Has there been any questions as in whose
responsibility? You can't put a car in jail, can you?
Has there been any questions around that? I don't think anyone's ever said like, okay, Uber, CEO of Uber, we're taking you to court now because manslaughter.
Well, I mean, I think they've stopped testing cars in America, Uber. So that's massive, because they've been testing them for ages, really aggressively, against federal regulations in many states. And whenever people have said stop doing this, they've just been like no, and they've carried on sending out their driverless cars. But now they've stopped it all across America. So obviously something's happening. They're obviously going to stop it, recall all the cars, analyze the data of the crash, and work out how they can make it so that doesn't happen again. In a way, it's weird. It kind of feels like they were waiting for this to happen.
Why?
Because I mean, it was going to happen. It's going to happen. There's no way it wouldn't happen. You saw the footage.
Yeah.
That woman walked out at the very, very, very last moment of the dark into the light. She walked across a kind of main road in the middle of the night in pitch black with a bike. I mean, it was weird. Yeah. It was actually weird what she was doing. Like, and we don't know why she did it. There's a report ongoing, but
Yeah.
So it's like, it feels like what they've done so much testing. They've been testing these cars for years on the roads. They obviously kind of generally work.
Yeah.
It just feels like they were waiting for it, like waiting for a problem, so that then they could analyze the data and fix the problem before they release it to market. Obviously, also you can't release it to market because the infrastructure isn't there.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. I mean, my opinion is that it's just crazy to me because it feels like we're going to Skynet. It feels like it. Do you not feel like that? Do you not feel like that, Dylan? It feels like we're in Terminator. This is just the first death of an artificial intelligence. This is going to be many in 20 years' time.
So are you scared of the robots?
I'm not scared of the robots. I can't wait to call up arms and it'll be humanity against robots.
So you want a war?
With robots.
They don't even exist yet.
I know. Exactly. I'm ready for them anyway. That's it. Exactly. So, okay, that's great. That was good news. That was really good news. Well, not good news. That was really good.
Bad news.
That was really bad news. But it was really good to talk about it because we solved some problems there. The next piece is on the similar vein to AI and robots, which is that the OECD report today, or this week, has reported that there'll be fewer jobs lost because of automation and robotics. And that's because when you are getting really good robotics into your business and you're deploying AI, it calls for particular skills to be in your business. So it creates jobs because people have to watch that shit. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I used to work for a kind of competitor of IBM Watson.
Yeah.
And basically the whole pitch is that, so they kind of walked me through it and the technology. And their whole pitch was, look, we are going to take tasks that humans currently do, and we're going to do them much faster, and we're going to do them much better. Theoretically, that human can't do that job anymore because you have a machine doing it much better. But what happens is that, according to the OECD report and according to many people, it's not kind of cast iron, but the argument is that once you free up a human from a kind of task that is quite mundane, a task that can be automated, a task that can be done a lot faster, you then free up that human being to do more creative work and to kind of go into areas which are a lot more kind of, that utilize the full kind of capability of the human brain. In addition to that, also the kind of extra productivity that's brought about by the machine creates more money for the company, so they have more money to spend on those kind of creative human beings.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's get into that in a moment, because there's something to be said around, well, how many creative jobs are there? So that's one. Secondly, there is a caveat to this study, because yes, fewer jobs will be lost, but that's still 66 million jobs estimated to be lost through automation.
In what time frame?
The time frame...
In what country?
The actual countries are US, UK, Canada and Japan, which is OECD countries, which includes them. The rest I don't know, because it hasn't given me the
So across
data.
all of the OECD countries,
yes.
Okay. And then over what time frame?
Let me have a look at the time frame. So time frame is by... Well, it doesn't actually give me a time frame, so I can't tell you that information. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, if you want to look at this information, you can go down below, but I'm just talking about this. So they're saying that there'll still be 66 million job losses.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
a lot of people.
Across, yeah, but I mean,
how many of these can be
I'm sure
a musician?
What the report is trying to say is that more jobs will be created. So more than 66 million jobs will be created. I don't know, I haven't actually seen the report, I'm just chatting about it. But what I imagine is that the gist of the report is that there's more jobs being created. So when I say creative jobs, I don't actually mean creative jobs like traditionally, like the kind of jobs that me and you do. I mean more kind of bringing creativity into business jobs. So the idea is that rather than have a data scientist who is crunching numbers all day, you have a data scientist who is using insights to develop creative applications in the business or in the real world or for clients or for whatever it is. The idea is that because you have somebody else doing the legwork 24/7 who is a machine, you don't have to do all that stuff, and you can spend your time working out what to do with the data, because all the machines will ever do realistic. I mean, there is predictive, and you know they could get into that area, but at the minute AI is only really in the kind of the number crunching space. So
what do you think? So in terms of equality, do you think automation then, but by the sounds of it, what you're saying is that people will have more freedom to be able to do what they want rather than stuff where it's like just data processing or any of this stuff.
Some people like that stuff.
So yeah, well, if you like that stuff, absolutely. But there's a lot of jobs that people hate. Like, you know, if I went into Tesco's or let's just say not just Tesco's, any store, you know, which is basically a big retail outlet, you know, most people don't like working in those spaces. They're like sort of the few that do like working. They see it as a means to an end, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a good example. So it's a real world robotics example of it, which you already have seen. So like checkout assistants being replaced. That's a new word that I've just added to the dictionary. Replaced. Kind of real checkout assistants being replaced by self-checkout machines.
Yeah.
And what you could say is that because Sainsbury's has introduced self-checkout machines, it's been able to create more. It's lost jobs in terms of the people who are at the checkout, but it's been able to create more jobs in its kind of digital R&D function, which it's going to need to be able to cope with the future of retail when nobody goes to shops anymore.
But what about if I don't have digital experience? What about if like...
Well, I mean, the idea...
Like my mum, for instance, she couldn't work in a... She couldn't be a digital project manager. I mean, she could probably try, but then it'd only be for one day. They'd fire her. No disrespect, mum. You know, like, but they would, because she's not in. She doesn't understand that. So what if I, you know, there's these, yeah, they create jobs, but they only create a finite amount of jobs and less jobs than, you know, resource heavy jobs do create. So like, if I'm the reason that a retail store, for instance, right, a massive retail store, it requires pre-robotics and automation. It requires people to stack the shelves, inventory check. It requires customer service. It requires management. It requires cleaning. You know, the sort of operational side of things. So that's a load of jobs there. So if I get a robot in that can clean my floors and, you know, do all the sort of robotic cleaning that I need, which we saw in our old office, Plexel was a robot that just go around and clean the floors. If I get another one that can stack shelves, and I've seen those at Alibaba, I've seen them, what do you call them, driving around or moving around? Are they driving or are they moving? Are they, how would we? Navigating around. If I get someone if I get just a checkout system that doesn't take breaks, doesn't need to go to the toilet, doesn't ring in sick. It doesn't ask for a promotion. It doesn't do any of that sort of stuff. If I get one of those, that's fine. And then what else have we got left? And you've got probably management, which can, or you've got engineers. You don't even need management then because you've got no one to manage. You've got engineers. You've got digital, the people who create these types of things. But then eventually it will just be a sort of self-perpetuating system where you get a robot to fix a robot.
Well, I mean, you've kind of gone very, very far in the future. I was talking about near future. I was talking about next 20 or 30 years. But you've gone like...
Dude, that's 10 years away, man.
No, you've gone about, in my estimation anyway, it's about 40, 50 years in the future.
Never underestimate the machines. I'm bearing arms.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of different estimations about when that stuff's going to happen. But I think we're still quite a way off.
They call it Singularity, don't they?
Yeah, Singularity. Let's not get into that.
Well, let's get into it. We've got 10 more minutes. We can get into it. Come on, Singularity. Tell me about Singularity.
So the idea is that once you have one machine who is so intelligent that it can create other machines that are so basically one machine that's really intelligent can keep creating more machines that are more intelligent than it. So as you have these machines that are creating new machines that are every step of the way, the next machine is more intelligent. What that leads to is it leads to an intelligence explosion.
There does need to be checks on this sort of stuff, purely because, well, see, apparently there's 50% of their industry which is like, actually, no, it's fine. Look, a machine will only do what you program it to do, and you can set checks in place. And then 50% are like, no, look, guys, we're playing with fire here. We're literally playing with fire. This is, if we create a machine so intelligent, and it doesn't just boil down to, that I'm a machine. It could just be an intelligence, a software that can tap in, that can hack every fucking home, hack every single smart home, everyone's device, and can just do what the fuck it wants. It can become the connection. And there was this...
Yeah, well, I mean, it is going to be a software. It's definitely going to be a software.
It's not going to be like the robot running around causing tyranny.
It's gonna be
It's going to certainly be something, a software. And then that's it's like a virus, isn't it? It's a virus.
Mr. Anderson.
I'd be really interested to know. I'd really be really interested to get someone on the show who's actually
who actually knows what to talk about. Yeah, that'd be good.
Not necessarily that. No, I mean, obviously these are good theories, and I think it's what most people feel. I'd be interested to get someone on the show. So if anyone's out there and wants to come on the show and they work in this big data space or artificial intelligence space, we're really keen to know what you think. Ian, thanks very much for coming on. Thank you very much. It's been a really good, interesting show. The next show we have is going to be... Who's the next show? I don't know yet because I haven't looked at my calendar, but we definitely have someone next, and we're going to be talking about actually a lot about artificial intelligence in recruitment. So really good. Thanks very much. Subscribe to the channel if you are interested in participating on the show, coming on, talking your views. If you have opposing views to me, that's even better. And I look forward to hearing from everyone. Thanks, Dylan, as always, for smashing it out of the park. You legend. And speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye.